Hello. This is what I look like now. Haven't had a video in a while with my face on it. I was going to wait, but then I realized that in October, my next episode is coming out, which is the part 2 of my September, and by the time November rolls around where I need to actually record a new one, the Charlie Kirk situation is going to be out of everyone's minds. Or at least the fervor of it is going to be gone. So I figured I would hop on here and try to talk my 2 cents because this is very pertinent to my channel. Reconstructionism, Christian nationalism, and the like. I've been seeing a lot of disturbing things lately from the Christian community about this. The first one is suddenly everyone is okay with violence. Suddenly. No, they're not. What are you talking about? I'll tell you how. Because the shooter offs Charlie Kirk with a violent action because he didn't like what he said, how or when he said it. People are beating protesters up at Charlie Kirk Virgils. Because why? Using violence to silence something they don't agree with. Shouldn't be said. If there is no vandalism of property or harming of human beings that the police are warranted, as like that's a particular type of crime, no, you don't get to actually decide that violence is okay for your lustful consumption. That is Christian nationalism. People who allegedly aren't Christian nationalists are coming out and defending these people. The echo chamber that you live in is astounding. I'm floored. At the very least, I can say, well, now you understand the shooter's plight, don't you? He was that mad. No, I just words and reasons. No, you just want your way. And you want to get it however means possible, and then you will use scripture to twist and justify that. That leads me to the second thing. In particular, now violence is okay amongst the Christian conservative community. But at a larger scale, I realized something. Christian nationalism isn't actually always a synonymous thing with violence. Charlie Kirk was a Christian nationalist, and he wasn't violent, and I'll get to him in a minute. But the unifying factor of Christian nationalism is actually not violence, but substituting politics as their gospel. And I said that before in so many words, and people are like, well, duh. No, but like, it just hit me in a new way, because for a real Christian, Christianity is the axiom. We start and end with Christ and what he says in his word. We argue from that axiom. That's presuppositionalism as well. But like, even people who don't think they're presuppositionalists or would rather use a different word, they start with Christ as the springboard to launch all of their explanations for the life, universe, and everything. The Christian nationalist will not. They start with their axiom of conservative values, wherever they happen to come from. Then they will use scripture to support those values. Even if the values are not scriptural, they will then take scripture and make it fit into that square peg, or as a square peg fit into the round hole. That's how the guy on Twitter said, oh, well, I care more about born children than the wicked's unborn children, therefore I'm okay with the conservative platform being changed to get rid of the sanctity of life at conception. Because he had to be consistent with his axiom, and it wasn't Christ. It wasn't his word, it wasn't his principles. It was literally conservatism. That's what the unifying thing is with Christian nationalists. And I'll dare say Reconstructionism a lot of times. Conservative values are synonymous with objective truth. And now that leads me to Charlie Kirk in particular. He was not, the other thing, he was not a martyr for Christianity. Oh my gosh. He was a martyr for conservatism. He was a martyr for the Republican Party, perhaps. He was a martyr for, if you want to be more fine-tuned about it, free speech. My rabbits. That's what he died for. He didn't die for Christ. And I know y'all, but so many people became Christians under him, and he talked about his faith. Yeah, great. Extracurricular. Great. Happened. But I'll tell you why he was not a martyr for Christianity. Because he didn't start from Christianity. He started from the conservative platform. And he has said this in his videos, not his edited 30-second clip ones, but his full-on videos. He has said that he can argue everything that he's arguing from a religious or non-religious platform, depending on who's speaking to him and who he's engaging with. Christians aren't supposed to do that. Christians are not supposed to be substituting their axiom just because somebody decided they don't like the axiom. This is basic 101. I'm not saying Charlie Kirk wasn't a Christian or didn't love the Lord, but I'm just having you understand what the situation is, because all of you are going off on erotica right now, like, because it's the fervor. Like, you're not understanding, you're not analyzing this properly. If he was a martyr for Christianity, first of all, we'd hear about it a lot more often. But he would not decide, oh, you don't like my Christianity, you don't believe that, fine, I will now use a different starting point for objectivity. And what are you left with when you don't have Christ as your objective standard? You have humans. That's where everything dovetails into. You know, oh, I start with science. Well, where does science come from? Human observation. There you go. It could be anything ends up dovetailing. If it's not Christ as the axiom, it dovetails back into man. It dovetailed back into his opinion politically. His political opinion was the ultimate axiom because that's what he wouldn't let go of. He was willing to let go of Christianity if people didn't like to hear it. And he kept his Christianity very personal. And now with the ultimate extreme, obviously Christians who, think that their Christian theocracy should happen, that's the other extreme where, okay, you're not keeping it personal, but you're also not taking into consideration that God changes hearts and you're going to force everyone into the things. And Charlie Kirk, ironically, despite being somewhat Christian nationalist, was against the theocracy, and he said those words. And he defined theocracy adequately. But he never, he was very careful not to do this. Y'all have watched a whole bunch of stuff, I think, at this point, coming on your feeds, full clips of his. I've watched a lot of things that he has said while he was alive, too. He was very careful to be a live and let live kind of guy, as long as the conservative values were propagated. It's Christian nationalism, honey. Do not say he was a martyr for Christianity. Christian martyr because he was a Christian, fine. He wasn't a martyr for Christianity, a martyr for Christ. And you equating the two makes you part of the problem. You're a Christian nationalist and you don't even know it. You are just as dangerous for equating those two because you're synthesizing man-made practices. And I'm not saying you're saying pro-life is man-made. No, but you are willing to hold on to whatever that platform says. And like I've explained or am explaining in my 2-part series and the other one's coming out in October, a lot of those conservative values are not values that also come from Scripture, even if they happen to be the same as is in Scripture. It matters where your ideas come from just as much as what the ideas are. Your motivations are just as important as what you actually do. So if you are motivated by preserving the Republican platform or the Conservative Party platform or the right or whatever, and it's not the cause of Christ, not only is that wrong, but it ends up being that you are building your house on sinking sand because you will then be willing to sacrifice whatever the Bible might say to challenge your ideas of the way things should be. Your accountability goes out the window. That's what it is. Your ability to hold yourself accountable and be held accountable by others goes out the window. And that's exactly what you blame the left for doing. Oh, they know accountability, they're, echo chamber. You're it. You are that. You thought you had a high horse moment saying that they're all fascists because they end up offing Kirk with violence based on opinion, and yet you go ahead and beat him up. Beat up the protesters. Like, all of y'all. It's ridiculous. It's a game. This is all a game to you. So understand what happened with this assassination. He died for the political party. He died for political values. He died for possibly free speech. He died for many things he should not have died for. But he did not die for Christianity. Despite the people that are allegedly searching for Christ now that he is gone. But I fear that, because what are they actually turning to? Are they turning to Christ as the head of the ecclesia? The head of their souls? Or are they turning because, this group of people that follows this God seems to be people that I want to hang out with more and align myself with politically? That's my fear. And it is valid. And it's something that I don't think y'all have thought about. That is not judging souls. That is being shrewd and hoping that people are finding the Christ of Scripture by this national phenomenon and quickly becoming international phenomenon. I hope they're finding the Christ of the Bible and not the Christ of Kirk or Christian nationalism. This was a political matter. Do not make it a Christian one. Otherwise, you are literally what you think you are fighting against.